Hey everyone, how's it going? So today I'm super excited because my hardcover copy of Calico Thunder Rides Again just came in and I finally got a chance to look at it and see how it all came together, and it was really exciting. So I thought I would take a minute to kind of give you guys a little bit of a tour of the book so we can kind of see what it looks like, how it compares to the paperback, and then maybe I will just walk you through a little bit of my process and how I went about creating the hardcover. I know a lot of you guys are writers, and sometimes, well, I mean, I think we're all a little more familiar with KDP generally than we are with IngramSpark, and that whole process and hardcovers can be a little intimidating to people, and it definitely was for me when I first started. So I'll just talk a little bit about my process with that and how it turned out and how I feel about it. So let's just go ahead and get started. Okay, so first of all, the difference between these two books, they are both exactly the same trim size, and all of the pages inside are exactly the same, except for like the copyright page where I had to switch out the ISBNs for both to match the correct version of the book. But other than that, inside they're pretty much exactly the same. With the cover, there are some differences in how they printed, and that was partly because of the dust jacket and like all the setup that went into that, but also just partly because of the different printing companies. You can kind of see a little bit of a difference in the colors, not maybe with the red so much, but definitely like inside her mouth right here, and also with the brown in both places, and even the orange on her scales. With IngramSpark, the colors are just a little more vibrant, I guess, or brighter somehow. They're a lot more consistent on the IngramSpark book to how they appear on my computer screen when I was creating the artwork, which is nice. I really like that. That's something I've always really liked about IngramSpark books. I did a children's picture book through them a while back, and so I did the same thing. I did paperbacks through KDP, and then I did the hardcover through IngramSpark, and you can tell that there's a difference. Like if you look at them side by side, there's definitely a difference between the way that the colors printed on the hardcover books and the way that they printed in the paperback books. The hardcover books are just a lot more consistent and more accurate, I guess, with how I originally did the artwork, which is really nice. I've always liked that. And then it's not like, I don't think the paperbacks look bad by any means. It's just, I don't know, you spend a lot of time working on like art and trying to get all the colors right, and then it prints slightly different and you're like, oh, that's not quite how that was supposed to print, but we're just gonna ignore it and move on. But anyways, so the backs look a little different too. This is just a little snippet from the book on the back here, and then this is the blurb, which I had to put on the back of the paperback, but on the hardcover I put it on the inside flap right there, which was fun. I really liked designing the dust jacket for this. It was fun. I enjoyed it. There's my author bio on the back and like some social media links. I know it's not recommended for most independent authors to like design their own book covers and do their own interior formatting and all of that, but I do all of mine because I enjoy it and I feel like I can. I have a pretty extensive background in art and some graphic design experience, mostly just self-taught, but I don't know, I just have a very clear vision of what I want for my books, and I feel like I do a decent enough job executing it, so I am okay with doing my own stuff. And I enjoy like learning those skills and practicing those skills. I think if it's not something you enjoy, then it's not really worth putting the effort into learning that, because it is like a really long learning process. But if it's something you enjoy and you want to spend your time learning those things, then go for it. Okay, so now we'll look inside. Okay. So this is just like a little end paper that I did because I thought it was fun. and kind of has like a circusy pattern on it. There's the title page. We'll flip open the paperback for a second too, so we can kind of look. Like I said, they're pretty much identical. The only real difference is that, and again, I'm not sure how well you can really even tell in here, but the black and white illustrations in the hardcover book printed, again, more accurate to what they appear on my screen when I was doing them and when I was formatting the book and all of that. These ones are much more accurate. The paperbacks printed darker. The first proof copy I ordered, they actually printed so dark that you could hardly tell what the picture was supposed to be. So I ended up having to go through and lighten everything and then order a second copy of the book. And they turned out a lot better this time, but then there's still a difference like between how the image is printed in this paperback compared to in the hardcover. Like if they weren't sitting side by side, you wouldn't really be able to tell, and I don't feel like it matters that much, but yeah, that's something that happened. So again, I really just appreciate the consistency with the printing and the colors and the way everything turns out with the IngramSpark books compared to the KDP books. Copyright stuff, that's kind of boring. This is the dedication, dedicated to Alex. Alex is my husband, and he's an awesome person, and I love him, and he's amazing. And when I wrote Grace and Jake and their relationship in the story, I ended up drawing a lot on my relationship with him for inspiration, and so I ended up just deciding to dedicate the book to him too. Okay, then we have this glossary. This is something that I talked about doing with beta readers a lot, because I did a lot of research for this book as far as like circus terms and just general information about the circus and life on the circus, and some of the terms and the jargon that they used. And so I ended up deciding to put this glossary in. I feel like for the most part you can kind of, like, you don't need to read this. You could still understand the book even if you didn't go through the glossary, but I wanted it to be there just for people if they wanted to go back and check and kind of see specifically what things mean. There are also some terms in here that are more specific to the story's world, related to the magic system. So there's that. Most glossaries tend to be at the back of books, but I put mine at the front just because I didn't want people to miss it if they wanted to read it. If you don't want to read it, you can just skip it, and hopefully nobody will be too annoyed that it's there. Okay, so then there's more glossary, and then here is where the story starts. We put this other end paper in the book to just kind of separate it out and distinguish that this is where the story starts. And then all these chapter headers that I had so much fun making because they were just really awesome, and I'm getting a shadow here, so I'm trying to, okay, but there's like some circus stripes kind of in the background. And then here's the tent of the circus. I actually don't imagine it having stripes in the actual story, but I drew them on there anyways, just so it's very clear that it's a circus tent. There's 4 illustrations in the book, and they just kind of rotate through at the start of each of the chapter headings. So there's that tent one. Here's one of the dragon, and then the next one is like this feather and this bottle of potion of some kind that becomes important in the story. And then there's this griffin over here. There's 2 griffins in the story. They're Grace's, and they are really fun, and I really enjoyed writing them, so they got their own illustration too. And then the next one is just the tent again, and then it just keeps rotating through. And that is pretty much it. That's the book. The end. We have this other end paper again. Yeah, so that's it. The book is 200 pages long. I think it's like 25 chapters. I honestly don't remember. I probably should, but I don't. Okay, so let me talk a little bit for a minute about using IngramSpark versus using KDP, because I have had a couple of questions about that too. So IngramSpark does hardcovers, and they were, so I guess the biggest drawback to using IngramSpark is that you have to like pay money up front. If you want to do distribution like to other places, you have to buy your own ISBN, and like that cost is like a real kick in the pants the first time you do it. Because you can get the one for like $100 or something, and that's actually what I ended up doing with my children's picture book, just because at the time I wasn't really sure if I was going to be doing hardcovers ever again in the future, and it didn't seem worthwhile to like buy more than just the one. Because if you buy, like, I think, so you can buy the one or you can buy 10, and if you buy 10, it's like close to $300, which is like, that's a lot of money, and that's kind of painful. So I ended up doing that this time around, so I have like 10 ISBNs now, well 9 because I used one for this. But I think I'll definitely be using them. I may even use IngramSpark to do my paperbacks going forward, just because I just really like the quality of the books that they print. Not that there's anything wrong with the KDP books, but like, guys, as an artist, like, it makes me so frustrated when things don't print the exact correct colors that they're supposed to be. It drives me a little insane. So yeah, so maybe I will be using them for paperbacks in the future. I'm not really sure, but so you also have to, with IngramSpark, there's like some setup fees involved, and they're something like $50. I don't know, because I've never actually paid them, because there are coupon codes online where you can get that fee waived if you're a self-published author, and so I've always just used those. I believe that they still charge money for like every time you end up having to make revisions to the book. Anytime you have to go in and like upload a new file after you've already approved it, or change the cover, anything like that. So my advice would be that if you're going to do this, you need to make sure that you have everything set up and ready to go like perfectly before you upload your files and before you approve those files. I had an issue with this book where I messed up the cover. Something about the back was all messed up, and so I ended up having to upload a new one, and I was really scared that they were going to charge me for it, but they didn't, and I think it's because I hadn't approved the files yet. So I was able to just upload a new cover and it was fine. But yeah, so definitely like check and make sure that all your files are correct before you approve them, because if you have to go back and change stuff, you don't want to be paying for it. And then their interface is not the most user-friendly interface. It was a little bit tricky to navigate. Some parts of it didn't quite make sense. I actually ended up screwing up something with the pre-order setup, where you like put in the publication date and then the on sale date. I did something weird with that, and I feel like their instructions, at least for me, were not super clear, and I didn't understand what they were asking. And so I ended up messing that up, and Amazon was like selling and printing and shipping the book when they weren't supposed to. I actually had one reader who like reached out the other day, and they were like, "Hey, I got your book in the mail today," and I was like, "Oh yeah, it's not coming out till November. That wasn't supposed to happen." So that was fun. So live and learn. Yeah, and then, but it's all fixed now. It's fine. You guys can go pre-order the book, and you won't get it till November like anybody else. And I think that's about it. If anybody has questions that they want to ask more specifically about my process with this or anything, feel free to reach out. I wouldn't consider myself an expert, but I've definitely learned some things throughout this process, mostly because I've just made a bunch of mistakes. This is my second time using IngramSpark for a book, and I feel like it went a lot better this time around, even though I still screwed some things up. But that's okay. So if anybody has questions, feel free to reach out. And then, yeah, that's my book. Calico Thunder Rides Again releases November 5th. You guys can pre-order it now on Amazon or Barnes & Noble and other places. Thanks for watching. Bye.